I'm Anupama.
Yeah.
I'm from India. I've been a media and entertainment executive for over 2 decades. And I'm one of those who didn't know for the longest time what she wanted to do. And it was, I think, only when I happened to come across an investigative what should I say, compilation that I realized that I wanted to do investigative journalism. So at least that put me on the path of media. And I went and I did a course. And after that course, it's just the way the circumstances took place, I found myself working in entertainment. And then, so I worked with networks like Star and Sony in India for almost 15 years. After which then I moved to, so my whole dream of being an investigative journalism got shelved somewhere along the way because this sort of took over and I just started climbing the corporate ladder. And soon after that, I decided I wanted to shift. So I moved towards the production side of things. And I ran Fremantle, which is a very well-known production company in the US. And I was representing them in India. So we used to sort of produce shows like Idol and Got Talent in India. After that, I decided to step off the corporate ladder. And currently I'm working as a consultant. And I'm also an impact producer because for the longest time, I believe that content is here to make a difference and to influence people and create change. And so now I'm finally doing what I think I was originally intended to do. And I'm still figuring my way out. So the basic essence of what I'm saying is that it's never too late. And you just get in there, dive in, and do whatever comes your way. And the career path will unfold for you. So that's my journey in short. And I'm really, really happy to be here and available for any questions that you may have for me. Thank you so much. And I think it's Lint after me. I'm not sure.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm Lint Grant Oyeye. My title would be doctor. My journey is one that has spanned through various continents from Africa to Europe and now North America. Sitting in and listening, I'm one of those who took their passion to another level in that my basic training is in medicine, like I'm a medical doctor, but through the years, I had followed my passion of poetry and continued working on my crafts, undergoing training and taking formal courses and things like that to kind of marry the science, medical, and the arts together. And presently, I am commissioned by literary journals to write literary criticism. My poetry is published in multiple international literary journals. And currently, I am the clinical editor of the Journal of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry of Canada. So it's a journey that has interwoven various jurisdictions in terms of the countries I have either trained or lived in, and also interwoven in terms of medicine and poetry all coming together in the various activities I do professionally. In terms of my being here today through the Harvard Alumnae-i network that I had made the connection. I think the next person is Sanu Mehta.
Yeah, hi, thanks. Hello, everybody. I'm Sonu Mehta. Yeah, I work as a research software engineer, and currently I'm dialing in from Bangalore, India. Really excited to be here and talk to you all. Yeah, to give you a brief overview of my journey, I grew up in a small town in India, and unlike my parents who studied medicine, I was interested in engineering. So I did my undergrad in computer sciences and engineering from IIT, which is Indian Institute of Technology, India, Jodhpur. Then I worked as a software engineer at Microsoft for an year, and I realized I probably was not interested in that job a lot, and I wanted to study more. So I moved to Harvard. There I did my master's in computational sciences and engineering. And that's where I developed my interest in the area of machine learning, a subfield of artificial intelligence. I moved back to India and I'm working as a research engineer in Microsoft Research India, where I work in the area of applied ML, where we apply machine learning techniques to improve the kind of advertisements that you see when you type a query on Google or Bing. Again, after 3 years, I realized I probably need to study more. So I have recently started my PhD in computer science and engineering from IIT Delhi. So yeah, I'm still trying to figure out career. Yeah, I'm happy to share my journey with you all. Yeah, I think the next one is Mahira Goel.
Thanks,
Over to
Sonu.
you.
Hi, everyone. Lovely to be here. Like Sonu, I'm from India. I live in the city of dreams, as we call it, Mumbai. And I started my career basically in a corporate world, marketing the finest hotels for almost a decade. And then I had a baby and I said, it's not possible to kind of, manage those schedules. And I moved to marketing a school. And from then on, it's just been a journey, I would say, a roller coaster, but with lots of thrills, bends, curves, but absolutely fantastic. So I got into education when the IB, that's the International Baccalaureate, was just coming into India. And so I actually kind of grew with the program. And from marketing the school, I got on to then really put my feet into education in terms of being a homeroom teacher, then moving to being a PYP coordinator, and then head of teaching and learning. And as my daughter went to graduate 4 years ago, she just graduated this year from NYU, I decided to push the cow over the edge and say, it's time to go back to studying. I went to Harvard and I did my master's in school leadership. And let me tell you, we all have wings to fly, but it really made me soar high. And I am now working with the IB in a lot of roles. I was the first chair of the network in India. I'm now chair of the IB Heads Association. And let me tell you, it's a joy. Really walking corporate corridors and now walking corridors that are full of laughter, giggles, chatter, and working with colleagues from Asia Pacific, training teachers, coaching, mentoring. It's really been a joy. And I've always been a risk taker. And I would urge everyone here to take that plunge whenever you can. And I'm fortunate to work now in a profession that even allows me to be creative, connect with people, and impact young adults. I'm just so happy to be here today, just to listen to you, answer your questions. And I'm into education, and you are here, you are in that journey, and happy to kind of answer your questions. Thank you, Boston Coalition, for having me here.
And I think I'm up next. My name is Lisa Eskow, and I am originally from New York City, but I am joining you today from, well, virtually from the inside of the US Supreme Court courtroom, but I'm in Austin, Texas, where I am one of the co-directors of the Supreme Court Clinic at the UT Law School. And my clinic gives students in the law school an opportunity to work on cases at the US Supreme Court. And we work on all kinds of cases, but our main theme is it has to be for someone who couldn't otherwise pay for representation at that level. So sometimes we are working on immigration cases, sometimes we're doing criminal defense, we work on sentencing, all kinds of things, constitutional issues are a common theme. But it took me a long time and a bunch of twists and turns to get to where I am. So one of the main things I would love to emphasize today is just flexibility and open-mindedness in careers. I got to Harvard thinking I definitely wanted to be a lawyer, actually, and then I hated my government management course, which in my head was equated with being a lawyer, and switched gears, became a history and literature major. And then I went into book publishing after undergrad for 6 years. And I worked in publicity and marketing. I worked as an editor. It was great. And then that kind of ran its course for me. And I found myself pivoting back to an interest in law, and went to law school at Stanford, where I thought I was going to be a sex crimes prosecutor. And after dabbling in that for a summer, thought that was not the life for me, and eventually ended up, after clerking for judges, working for a local government boutique. I worked in private practice at small firms. I worked at a big firm. I worked for the state briefly, and then I transitioned to the law school and teaching in academia, which for me has just been incredible. And I feel really fortunate that I get to work with students and help them think about their first steps in their career, and encourage them to take many steps and be open to those. So that's something I would love to talk about, is just how you never know what your career is going to inspire you to do next. And that flexibility and willingness to have a little bit of uncertainty is one of the best things that happened to me. So yeah, I just look forward to sharing my story with all of you. And I think that Dominique Paterano is next.
I am. Thanks, Lisa. I'm also really happy to be here. And I'm tuning in from Bohemia on Long Island in New York. And I just want to share a little bit about my early background in case anyone out there is in the same situation. I grew up in a pretty working class family. My father was a New York City police officer, and you know, he barely graduated high school. My mom did graduate college later in life, but I was the first person in my family to go away to college, and I went to Harvard, and didn't have a lot of models because most of the people who worked in my family were either firemen or policemen, and no one had anything like a degree from Harvard. So I also floundered for a few years. I worked as a paralegal. I worked as a photojournalist. And finally, when I stepped into a classroom, I knew that teaching was for me. And I taught for 10 years. In the middle, I went and got a PhD, taught college for a little while, and actually still teach college. One of my star students is actually here, Sabrina Torres, and I teach for Bronx Community College. But about 8 years ago, and I want to share this with you as well, one of the at the time, worst things in my life ever happened, but now I realize it was the best thing. I was asked not to return to Scarsdale High School because my way of teaching wasn't really valued. And it was the best thing because then it freed me to start my own business. And right now I'm the founder and president of Crimson Coaching, which provides academic tutoring, test prep, and college counseling to students. And actually Sabrina is now also, I'm mentoring her and helping her to apply to places like Columbia and Harvard and things like that. So I also want to share with you that sometimes at the time, the thing that you think is the worst thing that could ever happen could often be the best thing that ever happened, because that definitely helped me sort of live my best life, so to speak. So I'm just really excited to be a part of this and to hear what all the other panelists and participants have to say. Thanks. And I think Shalini is the next person.
Hi, yes, thank you, Dominique. Hi, I'm Shalini Singh. I'm a journalist based in Delhi, capital of India, and it's 8 o'clock, 8 p.m. here. Really excited to be here. Thank you for having me. So just a little bit about my journey in Indian journalism. I began at the age of 25 in 2006, after sort of meandering my way through the other end of the spectrum, which was advertising for a year. And then I studied I did a media course in Mumbai, which was a sort of a buffet course in different fields of media, which gave me a taste of where I actually wanted to head. And so if advertising is about, for example, selling a brand of coffee, journalism is about asking maybe why the coffee growers are suffering in a particular region. And I personally found that more exciting to get into as I got into the field. And I started with a sort of a left of center publication in India, which was pretty controversial for its time for the kind of stories they broke. It was called Tehelka. And so the idea was to ask all the hard questions, sort of, and then I went on to work with a national newspaper. And I've been, I've been an English language journalist, and India, as you know, has 22 official languages, of which, and we have like almost between 700 to 800 different dialects, and so English is one of them. But the mainstream media in India is largely in English and Hindi. And okay, so then, I went on to work with a national newspaper where, in my sort of zeal to tell the stories of, the people who had not been, covered, I would push for the margins to be at the mainstream, which was not an easy task at all, because, sometimes the easiest thing is doing the story. And sometimes the biggest challenge is to get it out there. And you're fighting your own people and your own colleagues and your own editors to, give you that space. And sometimes you're fortunate and sometimes you're not. And in that, and in the face of that, to just sort of still hold on to, still wanting to do it and not letting sort of cynicism wear you down, which is inevitable part of life. And you keep sort of fighting it. And I think that's really important. After that, I worked for an English news magazine, again, based in India, based in Delhi, and where I covered various subjects. I was reviewing cinema, theater. Theater was a big one. I wrote on gender issues, society. And then in 2017, I was selected as a Nieman Fellow for journalism at Harvard, where I spent a year with 23 counterparts from across the world. I remember coming to Cambridge and wanting to audit all my classes in climate change. I thought, because that's is an important theme today. But I ended up doing all my classes in theater. It just turned out that way. But then when I moved back to India in 2018, I spent a majority of 2019 documenting climate change in Delhi. Literally in my own backyard, so to speak. And luckily for me, that got an international shortlist. A shortlist in an international award. And then, and I'm also co-founder at People's Archive of Rural India, which is, which is rural journalism, where the rural population of India is a majority of the country. Over 60% of people are still living in rural areas. One of the interesting things that we started doing apart from rural journalism, covering various issues, is also People's Archive Rural India is PARI for short, the acronym. And so we started something called PARI Education, where we involve young people, mostly school children, college as well. We have a small team of educators and teachers and journalists who straddle all these fields together to work with different schools in different cities, to get young people interested in telling stories of the ones that are not being heard or listened or mapped around them. And it's an exciting platform that my colleagues are really doing well with. So I'd be happy to share a link to that. And my latest work has been so we also did this project which was documenting reproductive health of young women in India, which we've done over 40 stories in the last 2 or 3 years. And the story that I did from Delhi was looking at the sex workers, their access to healthcare, specifically reproductive healthcare. And there were certain, and so while I was reporting, there was an encounter I had with a sex worker, where our conversation led me to not put in her account into my story, but instead I wrote a poem about it, because I thought a poem would be more sensitive in telling her story as opposed to, just putting it into the story. So it was interesting to take reporting, reportage, that sort of, the discipline of that into something like poetry. And that's my journey, and I'm happy to answer any and all questions. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. I'm so inspired by all the stories that I heard. I want to be a participant. I am Dr. Shantae Mcfarland. My story is about love. You rarely want to hear that from women, but it really is. When I started my journey, I wanted to go to school. I knew I wanted to be a lawyer because I felt like that's where I'm going to make all the money. And so I went to school. I got a political science pre-law. That was my major. And while I was in law school, I was in St. Louis, and someone said, hey, they're hiring substitute teachers. It's $100 a day. And I was like, okay, broke student, I'm doing it. And I fell in love with the classroom. They immediately hired me on to be their law and justice teacher, and I taught sociology, and I just love teaching. And so I enrolled into graduate school to become a teacher. And while I was in my last year doing my student teaching, I met my husband, who's a Marine. And when you're in high school, how the military, they come and recruit students. Well, my husband recruited a teacher, and we were married. And we moved a year later. We ended up going to Hawaii, and I saw this advertisement for teachers that wanted to work inside the hospital. And I thought, oh, okay, this is for maybe children who have, terminal illness maybe. And the first day I get there, there's lots of keys and mirrors, and I'm walking inside, and I'm like, what's going on? It's the psychiatric unit. And I did not realize that teachers went into the psychiatric units to teach. That was new for me, but I fell in love because I love teaching. And so my story about love is not about my husband, but about me and my love and what I love to do, which is education. So I taught in a psychiatric unit for years, and many of the doctors, they would say, you're so great at this, with mental health. And so I got into mental health. I really wanted to help those. And I even saw some things within myself, my own healing journey that I feel like everyone has. And so years later, of course, we moved all over the world, and the pandemic hit. And so I wasn't working in the hospitals anymore. I was working in a school that had a clinic within the school. So students who struggle with bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, they actually still went to school, but they had their own section of the school to help with their needs. So when the pandemic happened, I had parents reaching out to me saying, hey, I still need you to, work with my child. They love you. They don't want to break the relationship. And so I made a shift, and then I started my own company, my own private practice, working with students and adults with mental health, which was great for me because I ended up becoming a celebrity therapist. I can't say the celebrities that I've worked with, but my husband's from Los Angeles. And so I worked for companies and still work for companies like Facebook. And so I work with their employees, people who work for Facebook. When you have a problem on social media and you say, report this, that goes to an actual person. And those people have to see, a lot of hard things. And so they're able to speak with a person like me. And so that is how my love for people and my love for service, how my career has really shifted and vacillated. And so I love that I heard that common thread amongst all of my, I like to call them my sisters, all of my sisters that are on the panel today is, your career can shift and just be open to those different changes. And that's my journey, really short. I hope I kept it sweet.
Thank you so much to all of you. That was incredibly inspiring already. And with that, I'm very, very excited to be splitting you all into breakout rooms where you can hear more from these incredible panelists. So I will be opening the rooms right now, and I look forward to all the amazing conversations we will have.